Hey, how are you doing? It's Alan here from Looking for Warriors. Now I want to talk about one of the most important aspects of Kanban for exams. I'm going through this series of a number of videos about Kanban for exams. This is going to help you get better results in exams by using the Kanban system that Toyota, that Apple, that Microsoft, that all of the car companies and all of the technology companies use to make better and better and better products. And we're going to use it in your exams, get you better results in exams, give you more options in your life. Now, one of the most important aspects is what we call a CFT. Now, what is a CFT? We're so distracted today. We're just so distracted. I can pick up my phone and scroll through TikTok. I can scroll through TikTok for hours and hours and hours. And I know sometimes it's me. It's not always me. Sometimes it is me. But it's not always me. Sometimes I'm good. I know that you can go to bed. You can want to go to bed at 10 o'clock. And you can get your PJs on, lie down in bed. You can take the phone out and you can scroll. And before you know, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. And you're wondering what you did with the last 3 hours. That's okay sometimes. Sometimes that's okay. You can do the same with Facebook and Instagram or whatever is your thing. YouTube, whatever it is. It's okay if you're watching my videos, then you can spend as much time as you like. Keep watching my videos. But it's very easy to get distracted today. We've so many distractions. We've computer games, we've all this social media, we've all these videos, all this Netflix, everything. It's so easy to get distracted. And that's okay. It's okay to get distracted every now and again, to zone out every now and again. But if you're doing important work, if you're doing the work that you're here to do, then you need to build in some focus. And it's the same with your exams. If you're doing exams and you want to get a particular result, you need to build in some focus, which is so difficult today. And that's where a CFT comes in. It's critical focus time. Now, I want to give you a quick analogy. I have spent my whole life working on a computer, sitting down in front of a computer all day. And that's been my job, which is fine. But what I found was that, for a long time, I just didn't have time I thought I didn't have time to exercise. And I found myself getting very overweight. Now, when I say overweight, I'm talking 23, 24, 25 stone. And not being able to tie my laces. Having to hold my breath when I try to tie my laces, which it's not healthy over the long term. And so I decided that I had to change that. I had to put in 30 minutes of exercise each day, and I started running after a while. Now I didn't. I started walking and trying to do some running, and it was very difficult. But I found this great little system. I'm really into systems. And I found this great little system where you run for 1 minute, or you start with 30 seconds if you want. Run for 30 seconds. I started with 1 minute, so let's say 1 minute. And 1 minute was difficult for me, really difficult. I had to push myself to get to the 1 minute of not even running, jogging. And so it was 1 minute of jogging and 4 minutes of walking. 1 minute jogging, 4 minutes of walking for a half an hour. And you do that for a month, and then you go up for 2 or 3 times a week for a month. And then you go up to 2 minutes of running, which is really pushing yourself again. And the idea is that you build that time, that jogging time up and up and up until you get to a half an hour of jogging. And it's difficult. It's really difficult, but it was a great system because it's really simple at the start. Everyone can jog for 30 seconds or a minute. Even me at the stage I was. I could still jog for 30 seconds or a minute. And I think I probably saved myself from things like diabetes. I'm sure I was on the path to diabetes and all kinds of cancers and whatever else comes with kind of obesity. I'm not perfect now, but I've certainly turned in a completely different direction than where I was. I'm certainly not 25, 26 stone anymore. But the point of that story is that tiny little bit of time, that 1 minute that I put in, changed everything. Now, if I wanted to say, well, I want to do a half an hour running, I never would have done it. I never would have gotten near it. But I could jog for 30 seconds. I could jog for a minute. Even, it was difficult. I had to push myself, but I could do it. I could do it, really push myself. And that's exactly what critical focus time is. That's exactly what critical focus time is. Now, some people may be the same in focus. I am sometimes too. In focus, we cannot focus. And there's so many distractions now. It's difficult to focus. For 30 seconds of focus might be a problem. But we've got to build in that focus time. Now, what focus time is time that you're focusing on one task. You decide you're doing this task and you stay on that task with nothing else, with no social media, no YouTube, no thinking, staring out the window and thinking to yourself. Just something that I would have done in school. Daydreaming, none of that. You're just focusing. You're only focusing. Now, you can start with 5 minutes. You can start with 3 minutes. Can you focus on one task for 3 minutes? Now, I've been practicing this for a while, and a great amount of time to get to get towards is 25 minutes. So the critical focus time fits in with the Pomodoro technique. The Pomodoro technique basically says that you focus for a specific amount of time and then you take a specific amount of time off. Now, it can be all kinds of different amount of times. For example, you could say, when you're starting off, you can say, I'm going to focus for 5 minutes and then I'm going to take a 5-minute walk away from what I'm doing. Or the best section of time for critical focus time, including the Pomodoro technique, is about 25 minutes. If you can do 25 minutes and then take 10-minute break for each time. So for the next 20 minutes, and I've done this with all different types of times. I've done it with 50 minutes with a 10-minute break. And sometimes that's all you can do. And sometimes you're in a job where you just can't take a break, and that's fine too. But you should try to section your tasks or what you need to do into sections of time where you're focusing just on that task. You'll do your best work. You will do your best work. You will memorize. You will know things better if you do it section off the time for yourself. So it can be 20 minutes. It can be 25 minutes. I think 25 minutes is really, really good section time. It's short enough so that you're not going to get too distracted. But you decide where you are. If you want to do 10 minutes and 10-minute break, that's fine too. Decide where you are. Now, I was doing 50 minutes and then 10-minute break, which is great. But I find almost that if I can break my work down into smaller tasks and do 25 minutes with a 10-minute break, it's even better. Because during that 25 minutes, you're completely focused on that task. That's what critical focus time is. You're focused only on one task. You're not distracted. And the other thing about work is, the other important thing about work is that work expands to the amount of time you give it. So if you give a task an hour, it'll take an hour. If you give a task 2 hours, it'll take 2 hours. If you give a task 4 or 5 hours, it'll take 4 or 5 hours. And during that 4 or 5 hours, you're going to be on social media and you're going to be thinking about other things and you're not going to be focused. So if you're able to break down your work into 25-minute tasks, to 50-minute tasks, whatever it happens to be, into 10-minute tasks if necessary, and then give yourself 10 minutes off, 10, 15 minutes off, walk around the block, get away from the computer, get away from the books, whatever. If you're in front of the books, get away from the books. If you're in front of the computer, get away from the computer. You know, if you're in front of an iPad, get away from the iPad. Just get away from it. 10 or 15 minutes. Go for a walk. Go for a 10-minute walk. Do some exercise. Just go and make a cup of tea, whatever happens to be, but get away from what you're doing. Give your brain, give your mind a break. And then when you come back and you do your next CFT, you'll be really focused again. So what I would suggest beginning, if you can break your work tasks down to 25 minutes CFTs, and then give yourself a 10 to 15 minute break. Go away, make a cup of tea, take a walk around the block, whatever you want to do. But take your break. Take your break, get away from it. You will do, using this CFT method, you will do your best work that you've ever done, because during the time that you're working, you'll be focused. You'll also remember much better what you're doing if you need to remember it in an exam later on. And you'll understand much better. You'll give yourself some time to understand. So that's the CFT. Now, The way that works with Kanban, really quick, because I don't want this to go on too long. The way that works with Kanban is, with Kanban, you're going to break your exam questions down into cards. So your cards, if you're using a physical board, is going to be just post-it notes. If you're using something like Trello, it's actually called cards in Trello. So you're going to have a card for each exam question. I'll put up on the screen here exactly what I mean with Trello. But you're going to have a card for every exam question. And so you take one of those exam questions from the ready column, move it into the today column, maybe one or two, and that's your CFT, that's your 2 CFTs for the day. And then that CFT might be 25 minutes, might be 50 minutes, but you've got 2 CFTs that you need to complete in that day. And you're going to complete them, you're going to start to finish. Now, try to keep it within the 25-minute time frame, or whatever time frame you set for yourself, whether it's 25 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever you need. There are times when you just get in a flow. And this can come to you sometimes. You just feel a flow building up within inside you. You find this in a lot of things. When I was doing the jogging, you know, you find you hit a wall. I find after 5 or 6 minutes, I hit a wall. Once you run through that, you're kind of in a little bit of a flow then. And if you find yourself going into a flow where you're working, you're enjoying what you're doing, then carry on. Then you can go beyond your 25 minutes, you can go beyond your hour if you want to. But if you find yourself getting distracted or daydreaming, stop. Stop straight away. Just go away, make a cup of tea, take a walk around the block, and then come back to it. But do your CFT. You may need to break a CFT up into 2 sections. You may need to do that, and that's absolutely fine. But you put it in your CFTs that you're going to work on that day. The less the better, to be honest with you. A big part of Kanban is limiting current work. So if you limit your current work to the 2 or 3 things that you want to do in that day, you're going to do much better work on those specific things. So limit your work as much as possible. You have loads of time. If you haven't left this until 2 months before you have to do a leaving cert, you've loads of time. So limit your work as much as you can. But that is the CFT. I want you to pull in 2 cards, which are going to be your 2 CFTs for the day, and just focus and work on them. Now, you may need to revise at a later stage. That's absolutely fine. But just work on those 2 CFTs. Work on these 2 questions. I'm going to work out how to do them. I'm going to search on YouTube. I'm going to do whatever I need to do. Go through the book, whatever. But I'm going to find out how to do a really good answer to these 2 questions today. And that's all I'm going to do today. So that's been the CFT, part of Kanban for exams. It's been Alan here from Looking for Warriors.